You have to understand this. Boxing's like this game of life. I got beaten by Buster, right?
Is this the end of influencer boxing? Does Jake continue? You know, he's got I guess, looks like a seemingly bad injury. Both sides of his jaw broken.
That's why when he fought Anthony Joshua, I scoffed at it. I talked a little bit of because of the lunacy. And I said, someone's going to end up dead. Someone can die. 10 to 13 boxers die per year.
Mike Tyson reacts strongly after Jake Paul's knockout loss to Anthony Joshua and warns him to quit boxing. Tyson says Jake is risking his life by fighting top-level boxers. He explains that boxing is very dangerous and believes Jake will get seriously hurt if he does not stop taking these risky fights.
He'll die for this shit. Die. I'm not gonna die for that.
Jake Paul reportedly suffered a serious jaw injury after his knockout loss, and online videos show him having trouble opening his mouth. In the video he shared, talking clearly hurts, showing how bad the injury is. Fans and experts say this proves how risky it was to fight a top heavyweight like Anthony Joshua and supports warnings for people like Mike Tyson that he could be hurt even worse if he keeps going.
I'm a little up, but will you take care of me forever and ever?
Paulie Malignaggi explains Jake Paul's situation after his serious jaw injury and says recovery will take a long time. He says a jaw broken on both sides is very serious and must fully heal before taking punches or boxing again. Paulie believes Jake could be out for a year and may choose to focus on his MVP promotion instead of fighting. He praises Jake's company for treating fighters well and paying them fairly, saying Jake has signed real talent and runs it the right way.
Of Jake's injury, you have this issue now where he's got to recover, and honestly, coming from broken two sides of broken jaw is even worse, because you got to test it out. It's, you know, you're not just chewing food or talking. You know, your jaw has to heal enough to take impact, to spar, to you know, be able to actually box and not just everyday life's usage of your jaw, like I said, to just chew and talk. But so I don't know. That's why I was thinking, like, is this going to be the end of Jake, or because even if he comes back as a boxer, it'll probably could take a year, to be honest. You know, does he focus on his promotional company? I was thinking, you know, the promotional company is probably one thing that I could always ride with. I never had criticism for it. Jake's promotional company, MVP. I think he's doing a lot of good things with his fighters, taking care of them, which is personally what I like. If fighters earn their money, and they should be compensated for it the right way, and a lot of promoters don't do that. But Jake has signed a lot of good fighters and compensates them very well, giving them opportunities and so on. So especially the women, but not just the women. A buddy of mine, Lucas Body's also signed with MVP. He's done well over there. So, you know, he's I do like the promotional company. Will this maybe give Jake a chance to sort of double down on the promotional company, being that he's not going to be fighting, and put more effort, even more effort into the promotional company, and I don't know, just you know, make this MVP platform an even bigger deal. You know, I don't know. I don't know what you guys think, but
Michael Bisping talks about how dangerous combat sports really are and says boxing is not a game. He notes that 10 to 13 pro boxers die each year from ring injuries, showing the real risks. Bisping criticizes Jake Paul for fighting far above his weight just for money, creating risky mismatches. He warns that boxing needs proper training, preparation, and respect, or the results can be very serious.
Boxing is not a game. Fighting is not something you pick up and mess around with, right? If you're a fighter, if you're a boxer, if you're a mixed martial artist, right, you have to take this seriously and you have to respect the game. That's why when he fought Anthony Joshua, I scoffed at it. I talked a little bit of because of the lunacy. And I said, someone's going to end up dead. Someone can die. 10 to 13 boxers die per year. It is not a game. Now, of course, the man wants to make money and he wants to box people and he wants to entertain his fans and thrill audiences. And that's great. And God bless him. Fair play to him. The man is very, very successful. I've never talked about that. I've only talked about a 58-year-old Mike Tyson or fighting retired, semi-retired UFC legends and then talking about them, right? All I've ever said is box someone your own age and size. And then this thing with Anthony Joshua, I was like, this is crazy. Now let's talk about the actual fight for a second. It happened in the 6th round, and it happened in a 22-foot ring. A typical ring is 20 foot. This one was 22 foot because he wanted a bigger room to operate, a bigger space, a bigger ring, somewhere to run away and be on his bike and stay away from Anthony Joshua. Now, I don't blame the guy. I'd have done the same thing, right? Because Anthony Joshua is gigantic and has the kind of power that could potentially do that to you, right? Maybe it's real, maybe it's AI, right? Either way, his face is going to be swollen today. That's a fact, right? The bigger ring gives you more space. Jake Paul did about 5 miles of road work, shot about 25 double leg takedowns because he didn't want to stand there and go toe to toe with him like Francis Ngannou did because he knows what would have happened, okay? And ultimately, it ended up happening anyway in the 6th round. And yeah, okay, he's going to have the street cred of standing there and say, I went 6 rounds with Joshua. He didn't go 6 rounds.
Johnny Nelson says Jake Paul is a great promoter who creates huge attention for his fights, but came at a personal cost. He praises Jake's skill at getting headlines, but says risking your life for entertainment is not a good thing. Nelson calls Jake's loss to Anthony Joshua a wake-up call, reminding others that hype cannot make up for the danger of fighting pro boxers. Both agree Jake is strong at marketing, but the physical risks he took were very serious.
Anthony Joshua couldn't have done any more. When you get in the ring with somebody that is constantly trying to just survive and run, you can't do anything about it. Our sport is built up of journeymen, like what Jake Paul did. He's trying to survive. He's not trying to engage. And so therefore, it's your job to cut him down and catch up to him. I think Anthony Joshua it was basically open to a lot of criticism because this guy didn't come to engage. If he came to engage, then it would have been a completely different story. And I understand the frustration of the general public when they're saying they should knock him out in 1 to 2 rounds. I get that because Jake Paul has been brilliant at annoying and getting under the skin of everybody, which you really in our sport, if you can evoke emotion from the fans, you're doing a great job. So what Jake Paul did was got in the ring. I think he realised the task in hand when he stood there in that 22-foot ring. He sees an Adonis of a fighter, former world champion, Anthony Joshua in another corner. And that's when reality hit fiction. Everything he had in his head, everything he thought that he could possibly do, had disappeared, slipped out the ring with the cornermen, slipped out the ring and he thought, wow, this is for real. And even a little jab that just gently missed him, you could see him thinking, what is this about? So it was a case of survival. And to me, I didn't want Anthony Joshua to knock him out, if I'm honest with you. I thought, you've got to make this kid have a reality check. And that's what he actually did, because Jake Paul himself said, I was shattered. This guy, everything I thought I could do, I couldn't do. Boxing looks so easy on the TV. Boxing looks so, matter of fact, no big deal. Until you get punched. And then reality kicks in. And Jake Paul, he has done a brilliant job of promoting himself, promoting this fight, promoting the evoking human emotion. And I think he'll be a great promoter down the line because, on the undercard, you had Caroline de Barbox on the undercard. You had all these amazing fighters on the undercard, all the girls getting the chance to shine.
Analysts say Jake Paul's broken jaw is a very serious injury that could affect his career. Both sides of his jaw are hurt, and it needs a long time to heal before he can spar, take punches, or fight again. Experts explain this injury is not just about eating or talking, but about handling hits in the ring. Recovery may take many months, and coming back too soon could cause lasting damage. They also warn that fighting top opponents again could seriously harm his health and future in boxing.
The most people can tell me is, oh, but Jake Paul made a lot of money. Who cares? Money is a tool. Money is good. If you can get it, get it. Hustle. But here's the thing. If someone offered you $100 million, but then if you took the $100 million, you have to pass away, they're going to take your life in 2 weeks. I mean, would you take that? So you get a lot of money and then you only have 2 weeks with the money. Like that, to me, that's stupid. So money is cool, but there's billionaires and millionaires that have lost their life. I'm sure they had terminal illnesses or whatnot. I'm sure they would give up a lot or of their wealth or large portions of their wealth for their health. That's why people say health is wealth. So I'm not impressed by money. And it's so funny that you have these MAGA influencers that just lost back-to-back, Jake Paul and Andrew Tate, and their fan bases who pitched this far right and pitched this like red pill philosophies, alpha male philosophies, and like having affirmations and daily tenets and goal setting and being a real man and the difference between man and woman, all these things that these bases have been preaching, right?
Dan Raphael says Jake Paul's early fight plan was very risky, comparing it to running into a jet plane propeller. He explains that there is a big difference between smart defense and simply running away, which Jake did for the first 4 rounds. While this helped him stay standing for a while, it looked more like trying to survive than to fight. Raphael says the knockout was expected and impressive, but it took longer than it should have.
I guess it didn't shock me, but it kind of disappointed me. Whereas I didn't expect Jake Paul to go in there and just recklessly go forward and try to mix it up with Anthony Joshua. That would be like immediate suicide. That would be like running into a jet plane propeller on purpose. But there's a fine line between being defensive minded and using your ability to move and your speed and things like that, than like literally fleeing and just running around the ring like you're in a cartoon. And that's what he basically resorted to for the first 4 rounds. I mean, I guess it was effective because he stayed upright, other than when he was flopping down on the canvas. But no, nothing really surprised me. Jake got the knockout that everybody expected, and it was a pretty impressive knockout when he finally got it. It just took him longer than it probably should have to get there.
Why do you think it took him so long? It seemed at times that he wasn't throwing his right hand as much. Was it just the fact, like you said, Jake was on the back foot, it was difficult to pin him down, or do you think Joshua should have and could have finished this way earlier?
I mean, he probably could have finished it a little bit earlier. I mean, I'm willing to cut him a little bit of slack because we look at it from the standpoint of, okay, he's a physically much more imposing figure, a much better fighter, a much heavier puncher, a much more experienced fighter. This is an Olympic gold medal winner. This is a 2-time unified heavyweight champion going up against what is basically still a novice professional in Jake Paul, who, by the way, is fighting generally in the 200-pound weight class, and Anthony Joshua was a chiseled 250 in most of his fights or thereabouts. So from that standpoint, he had all the physical advantages as well as all the experience and skills advantages. So why couldn't he do it earlier? Because it's hard to catch up with a guy when he's just going to run around and never try to even take a front step whatsoever.
Liam Smith gives a blunt take on Jake Paul's knockout loss to Anthony Joshua, calling the fight disappointing for boxing fans. He says Jake did not fight like a professional and mostly tried to survive instead of really boxing, showing poor technique and strategy. Smith compares this to Jake's strong business skills, noting how he brings in big names, lands Netflix deals, and creates huge events. While the fight made a lot of money, Smith says it lacked excitement and respect from serious boxing fans, showing that Jake is better as a promoter than as a pro boxer.
About it, you know, on the flip side to it, everyone's laughing at Jake Paul when Jake Paul's laughing at everybody else. You know, everyone's making fun of him. He's laughing at us, not we're laughing at him. You know, he's just laughed himself to the bank. Even before that fight, you know, he's an unbelievable businessman, which is exactly what he is. To do what he's done, to drag Mike Tyson into the ring, to drag Anthony Joshua into the ring, get Netflix, to do what he's done with women's boxing. Laugh at him all you want, mate. He's absolutely, you know, like I say, I'm going to use the word the businessman. He's unbelievable at what he's doing. As a fighter, as a boxer, as a professional boxer, he's poor. And I mean this with the greatest respect. Like, you know, he's come off the couch watching YouTube, doing YouTube and influencing people to get Anthony Joshua in the ring. Should Jake Paul and Anthony Joshua ever be in the ring together? No, should they fuck? But the business side to it, they fucking walked away with millions. The fight was poor. Jake was just in there to survive. Yeah, there's loads. We can keep going on and on about it. Was it a success? probably the boat walked away with millions. But for Jake to get Joshua in the ring there, you can say all you want, but I think personally, if that fight fell on Tyson Fury's lap first, he would have took it. You know, which heavyweight's going to say, yeah, it is? Just let's say, an example, 50 million to fight Jake Paul. You know, they're going to say no. I don't think one heavyweight in world boxing would have said no, barring Alexander Usyk.
No, definitely as well. Final one on this as well. Do you side with the fact that kind of the first meaningful shot that Joshua threw, the fight was over?
Yeah, the first clean shot on the chin, yeah.
Jake Paul is reported to have suffered a possible career-ending injury, with analysts saying his performance felt more like a stunt than real boxing. They say he faced Anthony Joshua not as a serious boxer, but like a stuntman copying boxing. In the early rounds, Jake kept running, dropping to his knees, and grabbing Joshua to survive, doing this many times. Even though he lasted 6 rounds, critics say his actions were unsafe and unprofessional, putting his health at risk. Experts warn that fighting elite boxers this way could lead to very serious injuries and shows why boxing must be treated with care and respect.
He does not. No more than I would have given him respect before for the other things that he's done, for the just that he would have for me for being just a normal human being. Because as I said in other videos about the fight between Jake Paul and Anthony Joshua, I don't think that Jake Paul came in there as a boxer. I think Jake Paul came in there as a stunt man, and he was impersonating a boxer. He ran around the ring away from Anthony Joshua. Anytime Anthony Joshua tried in the beginning rounds, started engaging a little bit, Jake Paul ran up to him, jumped down on his knees, grabbed down on his leg. Might have been, I don't know, 10, 11 times in the course of the 6 rounds that he wound up on his knees.
Angelo and Josh break down the Jake Paul versus Anthony Joshua fight and question if this could be the end of Jake's boxing run. They note that he fought Mike Tyson last year, but this fight went much worse. Jake broke his jaw in 2 places and is now on a liquid diet, even though he still made $92 million. They debate whether this loss hurts his future or if fans will still watch him fight less experienced opponents. They praised Joshua's perfect performance, saying he took no risks and stayed fully in control. In the end, the talk shifts from entertainment to consequences. The broken jaw, the warnings from legends, and the concern from experts all send the same message. Boxing is not a game, and fighting elite opponents can cause real damage. While Jake is a great promoter and marketer, this loss proves that success outside the ring cannot protect you inside it. Whether this is the end of his boxing career or just a forced break, the boxing world is clear. Continuing like this brings dangers that money and fame cannot fix.
We had the Mike Tyson fight. This year, we had the Anthony Joshua fight, but things went very, very differently for Jake Paul. His jaw is broken in 2 different places. He is on an all-liquid diet, and things didn't go quite as well for him as he thought they would, but he did make $92 million. The question becomes, is this the end of the Jake Paul era? Did watching him get beat that badly ruin future fights, or is this exactly what was supposed to happen, and there will still be interest if Jake Paul fights a random 45-year-old that never boxed in his life?
That's all for today's video. Stay tuned for the next one.